This is Vibe Science, a top 100 wellness podcast presented by the Radcast Network, breaking wellness barriers and making health truly personal. Here are your hosts, Ryan Alford and Chris Hansen.
Hello, and welcome to Vibe Science. We're here. It's all about mind, body, and energy. We're taking you to your highest vibe, and we do it every day with my co-host, Chris Hansen, down in Miami. What's up, Chris?
How you doing today, big dog?
Hey, I voted here in the States. We're recording on vote day for the U.S. You got to go out and use your American freedom and rights to vote. No matter who you vote for, you got to get out and do it. And I'm going to make a vote right here. I'm going to vote for Andres David Christou. What's up, Andres?
I appreciate the vote. Thank you so much, Ryan and Chris, for having me on.
We're going to give you the vote of confidence and our red light specialist. For anyone watching, and hopefully you're watching on the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
If you're not, you need to hit the subscribe button. Go over to YouTube, search for Vibe Science, because you've got to see the man in red. Andres there. He's a movement specialist. He's a lifestyle coach, and he's going to drop some knowledge here today. But yes, love the red, Andres.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And most people don't know what circadian rhythms are, right? Or maybe they have heard about it, but they don't know how to apply it into their daily life. And most people know that, they should get sunlight in their life, or maybe that they shouldn't use their screens, or their technology so much because it's harmful for them, or maybe it's not good for their mental health, but they don't actually know to the degree in which actually the type of light that we are exposed to and what time of day we are exposed to that light, it has a massive impact on our biology. And of course, if that has a big impact on our biology, that's going to also impact our mental, psychological state as well, because they are both intertwined. Like the mind is not separate from the body. So if the health of the body is not good, the mind is inevitably going to be impacted. So if you want to have good cognitive function, if you want to be able to perform, if you want to be able to recover, to heal from your workout and have energy even without drinking coffee, you need to optimize your circadian rhythms, because in this way you're able to sync your body to the Earth's rhythm. And that's what your body is designed to do. And it's been doing that for millions of years as we've evolved on this planet. And only recently, since the invention of the light bulb and technology, have we disrupted actually our circadian rhythms. So for anybody that doesn't know what circadian rhythms are, it's the body's biological clock. And we have many clocks in the body, meaning that different systems of the body have their own individual clock. Like musculoskeletal system has its own clock, digestive system, cardiovascular system. Every system of the body has its own clock. It does certain things at the time, certain things of the day at different times, which is ideal for that system. When you throw that system off by dysregulating circadian rhythms, then you're going to run into issues because those systems are not doing what they should be doing. So then your performance begins to go down. You're not able to recover. You're going to feel tired, fatigued. And in general, you're going to be digging a hole which you can never refill until you actually address the root cause. So naturally, we're meant to be synced to the day and night cycle. Night is equally as important as day. So most people know that you have to be exposed to sunlight for health, vitamin D, getting that red and infrared light. When you're exposed to midday sun, you're getting UVA and UVB, which is good, obviously, for your vitamin D production and other hormones as well. And then in the nighttime, in the absence of light, you are going to be releasing your hormone melatonin, which is not only your sleep hormone, it's also your repair hormone, regeneration hormone, healing hormone. So it's actually responsible for cleaning your body up from all the mess that you have made during the day, to help you rejuvenate, to wake up feeling refreshed and ready for the next day. So I like to look at the body as a human battery. There are certain things that fill the battery up and many things in our modern life that deplete the battery. So it's not only important to fill the battery up, but it's very important, or even more important, to prevent the depletion of the battery. So we have 4 primary ways to charge the human battery: sunlight, grounding with our bare feet on the ground or in the sea or in any body of water, which is basically coming from nature. This is giving us free electrons from the ground. Electrons are what the mitochondria need to make ATP, so that's cellular energy. The same thing from the sun. When the sun strikes the skin, our body is able to capture photons from the sun, and it's able to convert that into electrons, free electrons, oxygen, and water under our skin. And we also, obviously, the reason why we eat is because we extract electrons from food as well. So the whole idea behind like harvesting energy shouldn't be so that we are only harvesting from one source, but we need to be harvesting from all three main sources. And the fourth form of energy is obviously sleeping, because that's when a lot of the magic is actually happening, the regeneration, the recovery, and the healing, from the workouts that we're doing, or all the damage that our cells are encountering throughout the day. So maybe I'll pause here, and then maybe we can talk about all the things that actually deplete our battery.
Yes, Andres, we went right at it. Boom. That's what I loved about this show. It's like, I'm just sitting here and going,
there's no way you're not learning.
Yeah. I'm like, Savannah taking quick enough notes here, because Andres is just going straight at it hard. and I'm going, how many of those things am I not doing? It's always a spark for me of going, yeah, I need to do more of that, less of that. Damn it. But in a good way. Knowledge is power.
Absolutely.
Chris, I know you're tapped into this more than I am. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking before the show that I literally last night, I put 6 new halogen LED bulbs so I could turn it to red at night, because I was reading about it more. And I had about half my house with LED, and it wasn't for health. It was just for the vibe, right? I just like the cool colors at night. But now, literally, I mean, especially with, we're going through daylight savings, it's getting dark earlier, where I'm trying to keep that low light, like you said, with the natural rhythm of our bodies, right? So the blue blockers is something I'm new to explore. I mean, I'd love to ask you about that, because I've known about it for years. You've got Dave Asprey wearing blue blockers in every video he's ever done, pretty much. Quality. Where do I get a quality pair of blue blockers? Why do I want them? Right? Kind of what's the science behind those, instead of just me, I'm walking around at night wearing some amber colored glasses looking like a, disco star or something.
Yeah.
You kind of are, though, a disco star, Chris.
Thank you.
Agreed. Yeah, you already look cool, but when you put the blue blockers on, you look even cooler.
And you feel cooler too, I bet.
So basically,
so what's the science behind those?
Yeah, so basically, it's the same as like the lighting as well. Whatever you see in nature, you're trying to mimic with like your blue light blocking glasses or your lighting in your home. So at sunrise, we have primarily red and infrared light coming from the sun. Because of the angle of the sun, those shorter wavelengths of light, which are blue and UV, cannot pass through the atmosphere. So that means that we are getting primarily red and infrared light in the morning. Okay, it's like you do when you do red light therapy. And this is why it's so good to be outside during those hours, because you are getting red and infrared for people who are afraid of being exposed to UV for, let's say for the skin damage. Like red and infrared is the antidote of the UV. And so, yeah, basically what you're trying to do in your home, you're trying to mimic the sun's rhythm. So when it's red outside, your light bulbs in your home should be red. When it's actually more blue, or in the middle of the day, you look up at the sun, you see that it looks very white and blue, right? And so when you are exposed to that type of light at the wrong time of the day, so let's say you have that type of light on past sunset when it's not natural in the environment, what you're signaling to your body is that it's 12 o'clock lunchtime, noon or 1 p.m. or wherever it's the highest in the sky. And this signals to the body to release cortisol, because that's what blue light does. It keeps you alert, awake, focused, ready to hunt and gather your food. Stay away from threats, to get out, to be able to identify any threats in your environment. As the nighttime goes on, or as the evening goes on, it starts to become more red, orange again. And then it's the reverse, basically, of what happens at sunrise. And so what you want to do with your lighting inside of your home and your blue light blocking glasses is you want to mimic sunset, and you're prolonging sunset for as long as possible until you go to bed. Ideally, you don't want to be going to bed too late after sunset. That is the most ideal scenario, because it's the most natural way to live as a human being. In the wintertime, actually, we are designed and meant to sleep more, because it's a time of regeneration for the body, right? Because summertime is very harsh on the body because we're exposed to a lot more light. So when the body is exposed to a lot more light, it means that we're also undergoing a lot more hormetic stress. And you know that there are many things that that are hormetic stress, like exercise, sauna, ice baths, and sunlight is also a hormetic stressor. But too much of a good thing is not a good thing anymore. So basically, what you need is cycles, and nature is very intelligent, and this is why we have the seasons. So when the winter comes around, our body has way less sunlight, but we have way more melatonin in our bloodstream, or it's supposed to be more melatonin if you don't have the blue light exposure. But if you have the blue light exposure, you don't have melatonin. You're not healing and repairing your body, preparing it for summertime. But this whole cycle in general also repeats on a daily basis as well. So if you don't have melatonin at night for the next day, to prepare you for the next day, you're going to wake up feeling like trash because your body hasn't regenerated or healed itself from all the assault that it has taken throughout the day through the daily life stressors. So when you wear blue light blocking glasses after dark, you only need them, the red specific lenses, is because if you're looking at a screen or if you don't have red light bulbs in your home, but you don't need red lens blue light blocking glasses if you have red light bulbs in your home and you're not exposed to any type of blue light. You know how to identify blue light. It's everywhere. It's on screens, it's in your fridge, it's on cars, it's like in your bathroom, it's basically everywhere if you haven't changed your light bulbs and made an effort to create a safe space in your environment like I have to protect your melatonin at all costs. So now even my skin has also photoreceptors just as much as my eyes, which is basically telling my body what time of day it is. So now the fact that I'm wearing like a sleeveless shirt and I have a blue lit screen in front of me, that could potentially disrupt my melatonin. But obviously that's not going to be to the same extent as through the eyes, because the eyes are linked to the brain, and that's where the master clock is found, which tells how all the other clocks in the body should be run. So always after sunset, no matter what the season, so obviously sunset's going to be different at different times of the year, right? So you want to be blocking blue light no matter what after sunset, no matter what time of the year it is. So this is going to protect your melatonin, which is essential for what we mentioned earlier: regeneration, healing, repair, putting you into deep sleep, detoxification, making you feeling good when you wake up. The brand which I recommend, which I'm also affiliated with, is EMR Tech, because they have the highest quality blue light blocking glasses that I've tested, because I've bought many glasses over the years. And yes, there are some brands which come close, and you can find some cheap ones on Amazon as well, but they're not going to be as good build quality. They're not going to feel as premium. So if you want a really nice high quality pair that actually work, EMR Tech is definitely one of the best places. They also have the best red light therapy panels on the market as well.
Encyclopedia of knowledge, Andres Christou, in the world of circadian rhythm and all of these things. Andres, I'll tell you this: of all the things that you've said, the biggest unlock for me was the analogy, because batteries have gotten so important now between cell phones and like recharging. Thinking of ourselves like almost like a battery.
Yeah.
That really unlocked something in my head and my brain for understanding and think about the way you charge it, the different avenues. I really love that analogy a lot. I think that will help people sort of understand more, because I think sometimes this stuff gets, I don't know that complex is the right word, as much as, we all have a lot kind of coming at us and trying to digest wellness tips and techniques and all those things. So I think simplicity, it helps a lot in this instance.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is,
talk to us.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Andre. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing
please
is
finish.
that all you have to do is just look at nature, and nature is simple, right? We've overcomplicated things because we've disconnected ourselves from nature. So what I said to you about all the primary ways of charging the body is purely about nature connection. If you go outside, you live with the elements, with the seasons. You are exposed to cold when it's cold outside. You get the heat when it's hot outside. You're getting all these different benefits from nature itself, and it doesn't cost basically anything. Of course, now we have modern day things that we can buy in our homes: red light therapy panels, sauna bags, or ice baths. We can try and mimic nature in our modern environment, especially if someone doesn't have connection to the beach or something like that. That's a fantastic way to do it. But the best way to do it is to reconnect with nature and to live in alignment with nature. So if you're waking up with the sunrise like you should be doing, and going away from blue light, meaning going home and, putting your blue light blockers on and protecting yourself from the blue light after sunset, you're going to be mimicking what's happening outside of your window. If it's black outside, it is dark. Why are you exposed to a midday sun inside your home? You are confusing your biology. This is not some woo-woo science. This is actual fact. I mean, we very well know that blue light disrupts melatonin secretion. So if you do not have melatonin, you cannot fall asleep. Then you're going to be more anxious or depressed because your body is staying all the time in this cortisol, sympathetically driven state. Your body is not in a parasympathetic state, which it requires for healing, repair, regeneration, detoxification, performance, all the good stuff that we actually want. So we want to be spending the majority of our time in a parasympathetic state, which is what living in alignment with nature does. And we want to be avoiding the sympathetically dominant state. And this is why in the daytime, I also wear yellow blue light blocking glasses if I have to look at screens, if I'm indoors or under fluorescent lighting. And this is why, because the reason is that you don't want to raise cortisol too much in the daytime either, even if it's not close to bedtime, because cortisol is meant to be the highest during the morning, 4 to 6 a.m. is meant to taper off gradually throughout the day. So it's meant to get you out of bed, but you're not meant to raise it excessively throughout the day because you are blocking or stealing energy away from the other hormones, which are have important biological processes as well.
So interesting when you talk about the cortisol, because Ryan and I have the same doctor, a longevity doctor, and he told me your cortisol levels are high. And that's common. I've been hearing this from a lot of my friends, and ashwagandha has become very popular.
Yeah.
I don't know over there, but in the US the last couple of years. And I'm like, now I'm sitting here thinking, how much of this is related to the cell phones, right?
Yep.
And the blue light, where are we all just being exposed to blue light so much more? We all have increased cortisol levels.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone is trying to now supplement to decrease them.
Yeah.
Wild.
Absolutely. And the thing
because I think how many hours do I spend looking at my phone or on the podcast, on the laptop, right?
Yeah. And what you can do, obviously, is minimize the damage as much as possible. So, for example, right now, if you had a pair of yellow blue light blocking glasses, that would minimize the damage that you would be getting from the screen. Even better if you were to do this outside on your balcony or something, or if you had windows open in your home. Even if direct light is not coming in, the photons are still entering your room if you have your windows open, because windows block the red and infrared and UV through. So they only allow blue light from the sun to enter. So that means it makes it like a toxic environment to live in. This is why it's so important to open windows, because this is a very practical way to allow our circadian rhythms to stay synced and to minimize the damage coming from the screen, because lux, which means the amount of brightness that we get from outside, also informs our body of what time of day it is. So if we are not exposed to the right amount of brightness during the daytime, and then we are exposed to something super bright like a screen at night, now we are completely throwing off our system, right? And you said about ashwagandha, and that's for sure a really great thing, but the problem is that we are not addressing the root cause. Like, I'm all for like optimizing and minimizing cortisol, but if you are not addressing your circadian rhythms, if you're taking too much coffee, if you're over exercising, if you're always stressing out, like, mentally or psychologically, then yeah, you can take that. It may help you, but then you are just going to, how many things are you going to keep on putting one on top of each other? It's more about removing things from your life. And this is where we get into the things that actually deplete the battery, because if you can do all the things that actually help you to refill your battery, but what's the point if you're always emptying it and you're never fully topped up so that you can thrive? You can be normal, but normal is not optimal. We want to be optimal, right? So we want to have our battery fully topped up.
I love the battery comparison. I keep coming back to that because I think of iPhones now, and I just got a new iPhone 16 partly because my battery on my old one kept depleting too fast. But, it has the healthy charge and different things like that to extend the life of the battery.
Uh-huh.
And, I think we probably think of our heart as kind of like the human battery on some level, but it's so much more than that. And it's like all these things are extending, because as we age, much like a battery, it won't recharge to 100% of what it did when it was new.
Yes.
And the human body is much the same way. We're going to age. We're all aging.
Yes.
And it's how do we slow down the degeneration of our internal batteries, right?
Exactly. Exactly. You got that right, because mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of the cell, most people learned in school, is basically what generates the energy for the cells. And when those don't work well, no matter how much you're harvesting the energy, obviously your mitochondria are not going to be able to convert that energy which you have harvested into usable energy for your cells, which is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. And so when we eat food, obviously we are harvesting electrons from the sun as well, and from the ground, we are harvesting electrons. Basically life is an energy game. The more energy you have, the more energy your body has to be able to heal and regenerate itself. The cool thing is, if you have dysfunctional mitochondria, like when you harvest more energy, then some of the mitochondria which are healthy are able to help the dysfunctional mitochondria, or your body requires actually even energy to get rid of mitochondria which are mutated or have gone kind of wonky, because they've been running on dysfunction for such a long period of time, which leads to things that we don't want to be growing inside of the body, right? So like if we actually want our body to work as it should, we have to have healthy engines, which are the mitochondria, which convert that. And there is all the things that we mentioned improve mitochondrial function, but there is a bunch of other things as well, which also improve mitochondrial function.
I was talking about this weekend with some buddies, that exactly what you said, an energy and a battery source. We were talking about grounding on the beach.
Yeah.
And I remember I've seen, these, I'm sure you've seen them, these pictures, these microscopic picture of these slides of people's blood tests of your red blood cells after grounding or before grounding, right? And you see the picture before grounding, it's chaos. The blood cells are scattered. They're not circular. And then you see after grounding, perfect alignment, circular formation.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in Mexico this weekend, Saturday night, heading back from dinner. I kind of glanced, I saw the beach and I was like, I'm going to go ground.
Nice.
I was tired from the flight. We're not feeling that good. Rolled up my pants. I stood there for 20 minutes and same with the ocean, right? And that's where yesterday morning, hit a workout in the morning, jumped in the ocean. I felt amazing all day. And I don't, that's not regular for me. I do get morning sunlight, but the salt water and that red light in the morning and that grounding, it's a game changer. I mean, it's almost like we all know it. We just don't know. Because, for example, Ryan, you go to Cabo and all these Mexican resorts and stuff, right? You're relaxed and everyone says you're on the beach, I'm so relaxed. And it's like, yeah, dude, because you're grounding for 6 hours that day.
Yeah.
You're swimming in the ocean. You're healing yourself.
Yeah.
We don't, like you said, it's so simple, right? It's so simple.
Yeah. And do you know what regulates your nervous system state? Like, it's not so much your thoughts, well, obviously that as well, or how you breathe, but actually your energy. Like, does your system have enough energy to carry out the biological functions at ease? And so if it can do that, then your nervous system state, your heart rate will be lower, your heart rate variability will be higher, your breathing will be more relaxed. Of course, with breathing, it's very, very powerful. I'm one of the biggest advocates when it comes to breathing, especially how you breathe and how you can manipulate your breath to be able to alter your nervous system state. It's super, super powerful. But if you find yourself in this situation where you're already doing breathing exercises and nothing is working, and it's your heart rate you find yourself getting thrown back into that sympathetically dominant state, that is telling you there is something wrong with your environment rather than with you. So how do we go about fixing that? Well, obviously we start fixing the environment. We get rid of all the blue lights after sunset. We optimize our circadian rhythms and our sleep. We sleep good, we wake up feeling good. That's how it goes. we recover better. We're able to heal, to regenerate. We have good energy. Then we go about our day, you know, and then afterwards we're exposed to sunlight. That's also able to vasodilate our blood vessels, right? Creates nitric oxide in our body, which is able to vasodilate. That means better blood flow throughout the body, more oxygenation for the tissues, and more nutrition for the tissues. So obviously a system which doesn't have a good vascularity or good cardiovascular function or a good blood flow is going to have blood flow restriction to certain tissues, and those tissues are going to get tight. Tight tissues don't accept blood flow well, and they don't accept oxygen well. They don't accept nutrients well. And that means they also can't get out metabolic waste either. So when we have all of this dysfunction, tissues get tighter and tighter because we are creating a hypoxic environment, meaning an absence of oxygen. And we are creating a lot of cellular waste, which is a lot of metabolic damage, which is occurring, which cannot get away. And so to be able to restore that function, we just have to be able to vasodilate the system, meaning, you know, from sunlight or by taking certain supplements, doing sauna, exercising, grounding, all the things which are good, healthy type of stressors. They are going to be extremely useful for us to be able to regain our function, as long as we also prioritize recovery and not getting exposure to blue light after sunset.
You got to put red lights on the Christmas trees, Ryan.
What's that? Yeah.
You got to tell the wife, restring all 7 Christmas trees with the red lights.
And she put them all up. Oh, they're all up. Like we have 7 trees up already. Like it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas at the Alfords already, even before Thanksgiving. My wife has a disease, but it's there's worse diseases. Let me say this. I want to talk about functional movement, but before we do that, Andres, I do want to get to a couple, you know, of the supplements that you talk about regularly and that you do promote. I think they're different than other things we've talked about on this show. So I'd love for you to maybe touch on those, and then we'll hit on functional movement.
Awesome. Yeah. So everything that I talk about through my social media channels is always geared towards mitochondrial function because it literally all comes down to this. Like, as I said, life is an energy game. If you have more energy, you have more energy for everything, to heal, repair, regenerate, you know, detoxify, all that good stuff. So some things that I love to talk about through my page is like shilajit, which is basically a herbal mineral substance, which is produced by the earth itself. I call that the methylene blue of nature. So we'll talk about methylene blue as well, but methylene blue is synthetic. It's made in a lab, but basically shilajit is made from nature, and they both have very, very similar properties. I don't know which one is more potent than the other. I can assume that obviously the man-made drug is going to be more powerful, but you know, the supplement from nature is pretty incredible. The fact that it does all of these things which are similar to methylene blue. And so shilajit basically is like a decomposition of plant material and bacteria and whatever stuff is, you know, getting, how would you say, broken down over thousands of years. And basically this stuff is leaching out from the rocks at very high altitudes, like in the Himalayas and also in the Altai mountains and in some Russian mountains as well. And so basically this stuff, the crazy thing is that people who do high altitude kind of hikes or they go to mountaintops, those are the individuals who actually need shilajit, because shilajit increases your ability to produce ATP because it helps to improve mitochondrial function. And it's loaded with minerals as well, which is actually giving your body, you know, the proper hydration that it needs, and for your mitochondria to work properly as well, because minerals are a super important part of every single biological process. You know how important magnesium is, for example, or salt. You know, if you without those, your body just pretty much falls apart. You get muscle cramps, you feel fainty, lethargic, you don't have energy. So your body is ionic. What does this mean? It means it's electric. And so when it sends these electrical impulses throughout the nervous system and the body, you need a certain amount of mineral balance in the body. And when this is thrown off, well, obviously your body is not going to communicate well as it should, because now it's almost like a wire, which basically is not touching the other wire. It doesn't have a connection. So the more mineralized the body is, the more hydrated the body is, the better connection it can have. And so basically, yeah, it does that. And it also improves the oxygen carrying capacity as well, because it helps us increase our red blood cell count, which is basically allowing us to carry more oxygen in our blood, which is because oxygen is required within the mitochondria to make ATP. And so when you don't have oxygen, you are then in anaerobic metabolism. But when you have the presence of oxygen, you are in aerobic metabolism. And so when you are in anaerobic metabolism, your muscles, you know how it feels like when you do a sprint and you got all out effort. That's called anaerobic work. Or when you are lifting weights to failure, that's also called anaerobic work, because you're working your body so much that you're using up all the oxygen that's available in the system. And then your body's going into anaerobic metabolism, which is going to be using glycogen mainly as a fuel source. You only have a limited amount of glycogen available. So basically, once you use that all up, your body's like, yeah, you're building up that lactic acid in your muscles, you're feeling fatigued and tired, and you're not able to perform. And Shilajit is able to improve, obviously, our oxygen carrying capacity, which means it can keep us longer in an aerobic state, especially when we're doing something which is not anaerobically demanding. So meaning, like, let's say you're climbing up a mountain and you're feeling like you're breathing super heavy, and you're basically not able to get enough oxygen, and your muscles are starting to get that lactic acid feeling, like that burning feeling. Well, Shilajit is able to help with that, because it's able to increase the amount of oxygen in the system. So then every single breath is even more valuable, because you're able to extract more oxygen from every single breath. So yeah, that's why I love Shilajit, because it optimizes energy production within the system. And, you know, I really love energy production, because it helps the body to run the show as it should. And that's why also circadian rhythms are so important for this as well. And methylene blue is basically a drug that was found in the 1860s or something like this. And originally it was used to dye jeans. And so that was what it was used for originally, to make the jeans blue. And then one scientist, a really long time ago, he basically was studying malaria in a lab, and he used to use methylene blue to stain the cells. And when he basically put the petri dish under the microscope to look at the malaria with the methylene blue, the malaria vanished. It just wasn't there. It was gone. It was basically killed. And so basically he found the cure for malaria as well. So it's also known as an anti-malarial drug. But then later on, people, you know, who have they have an ability, or they have a lack of an ability to absorb oxygen, which is a specific condition which I don't remember right now. Basically, people like this use methylene blue because it allows the body to carry more oxygen in the blood, and that allows the oxygen obviously to get to the mitochondria. And the cool thing about methylene blue is that one thing that Shilajit doesn't do, is able to grab onto the electrons. So it acts as an electron donor, and it's able to grab the electrons anywhere floating in the body, and is able to take them to the mitochondria and convert them to energy, because floating electrons actually are not necessarily a good thing, because those are what we call free radicals, because electrons can't escape the mitochondria and they can go out of the mitochondria. They're supposed to be inside the mitochondria or inside the cells to be able to be like healthy. But once they escape, because that can happen due to dysfunctional mitochondria, that can cause free radical damage. And basically what methylene blue is able to do is able to grab onto those electrons which are floating around in the body, minimize reactive oxygen species, and is able to direct the oxygen back into the mitochondria, and then we're able to continue making energy. So this is why I love those two supplements, because both of those things are optimizing mitochondrial function, and they are increasing energy production. And of course, disclaimer that methylene blue is a drug, so do your own research and maybe consult your doctor if you want to take this.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I've taken them both.
How did you feel? Did you notice a difference?
Yeah, actually, I just tried a new Shilajit this past 3 days. I love it. It's a different one that's mixed with seawater. But I've been taking Shilajit probably 3 years, and it's funny. Even last week in the gym in the sauna, I recommended it to a couple buddies, and they've all texted me saying, "I feel good." Yeah. I'm pretty sure it boosts your testosterone. I believe. Exactly. I mean, it's a great. Yeah, man. I'll be honest. It doesn't taste great. It tastes it's resin, right? It's a resin from the mountains of the Himalayas, but I can tell, and everyone that I've told about it that's started taking it loves it. Methylene blue I've also tried this year, and I didn't know they were similar. It's interesting you say that. Methylene blue to me felt stronger, and a little synthetic-y, a little bit, a little jittery, and so I prefer the Shilajit. But I'm a huge advocate. I think if anyone's looking to just boost their performance in any form or fashion, I think do it. I don't care if it's an office job or you want to get your weight up in the gym. I look at it as just something you should be supplementing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so many people are imbalanced.
I'll send you a link after.
Yeah. So many people are imbalanced, you know?
Yeah. And
my guy friends say they feel just more amped.
Yeah, masculine, because the hormones are optimized.
Yes.
And hey, perfect. We do say that total health is mind, body, and energy. That's why, you can have the mind, you can have the body right, but you got to have your energy right.
Absolutely.
Talking with Andres Christou. Andres, let's talk about some functional movement. I know it's important. I know you coach a lot about it.
Yeah.
What define functional movement?
Okay. All right. So this word, I guess, gets thrown around, on the internet, and now you'll see everything ridiculous online, right? Where people are doing things which don't really make sense. And this is the issue, right? Where it has been taken a little bit too far. You need to do things that actually biomechanically make sense, which relate to the human body. That's what you would call something functional. It means that something that you can carry out when you're exercising, it relates to daily life acts, such as picking stuff off the floor, pressing it overhead, pulling yourself, up a rock if a tiger is running after you, throwing a spear, sprinting, doing something that like rolling on the ground, for example. These type of things would be considered, like things like jiu-jitsu would be considered as functional movement, sprinting or calisthenics. All of this stuff is functional movement. And what that really means is that the body's working together as a system and not as separate parts. And obviously, to be able to move your body, it has to work together as a system, right? The only reason you can walk is because your body has these chains, as I like to call them, or maybe chains is not really a nice word, or more like fascial lines, which are acting as slings. So when you're moving one limb, the other limb is getting ready like a spring to be loaded into the next phase. So this is how you're able to locomote, or you're able to sprint and walk and crawl. The body is extremely efficient. The whole idea behind functional training is to teach the body how to move more efficiently, because a good athlete is an efficient mover. And basically, an efficient mover is an athlete. So you don't have to be an athlete to be an athlete. Anybody who moves well classified as an athlete, because the best athletes in the world are able to adapt to any single environment with their body in any single situation, because they have taught their body how to move in different ways and different environments. And so because of this is allowing the body to work together as a system. Of course, when we say system, that also means the eyes, the vestibular system, and the balance and strength, power, mobility, explosiveness. So all of these things are what we consider as functional training. When you talk about strength training, for example, it's very much like up and down, back and forth type of motion. There isn't very much rotation involved, right? And of course, when we walk and run, you see how much our shoulders rotate back and forth. So the spine is designed to actually not only rotate, but the shoulders are meant to move in a figure 8 type of pattern. So every time when you walk forward, it's going forward, but then the other shoulder is dropping down, the elbow is leaning forward, and it's crossing over. So the spine is making like this kind of snake shape the whole time as you're walking forward. So we're basically upright standing lizards, pretty much.
Weird. Never thought of it like that.
Yes.
Reptilians,
yeah, but the good kind.
We may all be them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So call me a snake.
Oh, no snakes in the grass over here, boy.
No. I hate snakes.
I'm not a fan.
never got into
I
that.
think they're cool.
The I don't know. I don't trust a snake.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like when you see symbolisms of snakes, it's always related to something maybe not so optimistic, right? Or when you think of a snake, you always think like it's either going to bite you or it's going to choke you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the one that deceived Eve.
Yeah.
The ultimate
To
deception.
get biblical.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Talk to us about, we're all about action here and tips and like specific things. Talk about, and I know that, we're doing an audio podcast. We have the video component. We don't have to do any demonstrations, but maybe just verbally describe some good functional movements that maybe the audience could deploy to the things that you're talking about.
Okay, so again, a brief disclaimer before I say is like, don't try this without hiring a coach or something like this, because of course you can injure yourself, or if you, especially when you don't know what you're doing, or if this is the first time that you're hearing it, and then you go out there and you try it and you hurt yourself, and then you blame Andres for not knowing how to do it. So basically, sprinting.
We'll allow that.
Yeah, so sprinting is one of the optimal, like one of the most important exercises for humans, because this is what we have been designed to do as human beings. Like there is a reason why you can walk, run, and sprint. And so the reason is because it's meant for you to be able to hunt and gather your food, and to be able to run away or to fight a threat, right? And so basically when you are sprinting, there's not a single muscle in your body that you are not using. Even your tongue, you're probably using while you're sprinting. And so basically when you do this, your body is moving in a way which is the most functional. You could never replicate it with any other exercise. Every single muscle in your body is moving the way it was designed to move, like biomechanically. That's what it was designed to do. It's like the one thing that we do the most efficient at. So when I was in university, they told us that walking is one of the most efficient forms of human movement. So that means it burns the least amount of energy for what you get out of it. So people actually shouldn't be exercising for burning calories. Obviously, they should be exercising for building muscle and for building other things, but not burning calories, because obviously the more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate, which means you burn more at rest. And so that is the way that you want to be burning your calories, when you are chilling, not while you're exercising. So you make sure that what you're doing during exercise is going to yield you as much results as possible. And sprinting is incredible for that, because it recruits the fast twitch muscle fibers. It's explosive movement. It's going to break down muscle. It's going to, when you look at a sprinter versus a marathon runner, you can clearly see the difference, right? Why does one have a lot of muscle and why does one not? Well, sprinting increases growth hormone, first of all, like massively. So that's going to help you increase muscle mass. And who needs to increase muscle mass? Everybody, men and women, because muscle is important for longevity, allows you to move well, it allows you to have strength, it allows you to be functional. With more strength, you're able to be more capable, right? You're not going to be as fragile. So we want to be anti-fragile. So sprinting is one of the best forms of human movement. And what else would I say? I would say pull-ups is absolutely incredible because it basically builds the entire upper body, specifically the back and the biceps and all the pulling muscles. Of course, you're going to recruit your core as well. Anything calisthenic, a lot of the stuff which I share on my page, which is primal movement, moving on all fours, like on your hands and your feet. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of animal flow before, which you are combining different movements together on the ground. It looks a little bit like breakdance, but you're spending the majority of the time on the ground. And because of that, your gravity is constantly pushing down, right? So that means gravity is acting as a form of resistance on your body. So it's a form of resistance training that you're doing. So you're going to build functional muscle by doing functional movement patterns, which is unifying the entire body, how to work together like a chain, like a system as it should be. Whereas when we do isolated things in the gym, I'm not saying that those are bad. I think both are important. If you take advantage of doing isolation training and hypertrophy training in the gym, which is separating the muscle groups, well, as much as we can, of course, because you can never really separate a muscle. It's just working as much as we can in isolation. and you combine that with functional training, you can be functional, you can be strong, and you can be very aesthetically pleasing, because you don't necessarily have to just train functionality. Because, you know, there are a lot of people out there who say, oh, look at that bodybuilder, he's totally dysfunctional. I bet you, if I put him to start to do functional training after 3-6 months, you would be seeing him move better than anybody. So he would be able to sprint, he would be able to jump, he would be able to do pull-ups, he'd be able to do all the things that we're talking about, and he'd have all the muscles. So why not have both?
All right, $1 million question for me, Andre. So with that, especially the sprinting, because you hear both sides of this, you're going to know it as soon as I say the word. Stretching or no before sprinting?
Okay.
Do we stretch before we sprint, or do we stretch after we sprint? Or, you know, because when I think like going out and let's say I was going to go sprint, should I walk, you know, 5 minutes before I sprint? Should I stretch before I sprint?
Yeah, this is a really great question. Thank you for asking, because I'm known as the anti-stretching guy, actually. So basically, I'm not a very big proponent of stretching, but I'm a very big proponent of activating and mobilizing. There is a very big difference. So not all stretching is bad inherently, and stretching is not bad. Context is everything. It's just that you need to understand when is the right context to use something. So we have to define different types of stretching as well. We have dynamic stretching and we have passive stretching, or we have static stretching. So we don't want to be doing passive stretching or static stretching before we sprint, because we're going to be lengthening our muscle fibers or our muscles too much. And we need a certain amount of tightness in our muscle to keep us explosive. Think of the system like an elastic band. If you overstretch the elastic band, it's lost its elasticity, right? Which means it's not very efficient at transferring energy. So if you're going to be doing something explosive, and you'll overloosen the system, now the time that it takes you to swing your arm, to get going and everything is going to be way slower compared to the person who didn't stretch, or who actually mobilized and activated instead, because he actually took the tissues through full range of motion without making them overly long, which means it didn't leave them in that state. When we passively stretch and we hold the stretches for a prolonged period of time, what it does, it relaxes the muscles too much, and it leaves them relaxed temporarily. But then obviously if you're doing that right before the sprint, it's not a good idea, because then of course you're going to go and sprint, right? So you don't want to be doing that right before. So if you are going to do passive stretching, you maybe want to do it maybe in the night time or something like this. You want to do it more as a restorative type of yoga type of thing. But if you want to be preparing for a sprint, you want to be mobilizing and activating the muscles, meaning that you are taking muscles through their full range of motion while adding strength into the stretch. This signals to the brain that we need to keep the range and not lose the range. So when we lose the range, that's when we have the laxity in the system. We're too loose. And this is what creates hypermobility. And the system does not like hypermobility. So what it does very shortly afterwards, let's say the next day or even the next couple of hours after passively stretching, it tightens you even more than before. So if you are stretching passively because you are tight, it's going to make you even tighter than before, because the brain works on safety. When it feels that you don't have control over a certain limb because you have overstretched that muscle, it says, hold on, I need a certain amount of tightness to be able to move myself. I can't move so loose. So what does it do? It over tightens the system. So the right way to gain true mobility is by strength training or functional training in full range of motion. I'll give you an example. When you're doing deadlifts, instead of going halfway down, you go all the way down. So when you go all the way down, you're going to be stretching your hamstrings fully, right? So you're now training your hamstrings through full range of motion, and you're getting the full benefit, not only about all the other parts that it gives you of the deadlift, but you're gaining mobility in your hamstrings. An even cooler thing is if you're standing on a box or on a couple of plates and you're going even lower with the bar, with the weight, you're training your body to get strong. You're showing your brain that what you're doing is safe, because you have added strength applied to the muscle, which is not going to make the muscle overly loose after the activity. And the nervous system is going to grant you access to greater ranges of motion. So this is how you would go about, like, if you want to prepare, like in general, if you want to improve your mobility, you obviously strength train and you functional training, full range of motion. That's number one. That is the foundation to better mobility. But if you want to do some activation / mobility exercises before an event or something, so that you don't tear a muscle because you just haven't made it pliable at all, you need to, let's say, take a squat, giving a squat as an example, to stretch the hamstrings. You put your hands on the floor and you lift your bum up so that the back of your legs are straight. So it looks a bit like a deadlift. And then you drop your bum back down. This is what I call a frog squat. So what you're doing there is you're taking the muscle through full range of motion actively, not passively, and you are opening up the muscle in a gentle way. You do that a couple of times. You don't necessarily need to do any kind of walking or anything like that before an extreme event. And then you slowly progress into doing something explosive. Of course, when you do something explosive, you always want to do, let's say, a pre-sprint or a couple of warm-up sprints as well. So even if you've done mobility exercises, you still want to perform the task at hand, because that movement is very different to the mobility exercises that you just did. So you want to warm up your hip flexors, your Achilles tendon, your shoulder, your spine. You want to kind of reach 70 to 80% of your top speed, let's say, in a warm-up, because that helps to prepare the tendons for the impact that they are going to encounter.
Very knowledgeable, Andres. And so no stretching or no overstretching.
Mobilizing, activating.
We got to warm up, but don't overstretch.
Yep.
It makes sense though. The elasticity thing.
Yep.
Again, I love.
Someone said it to me last week. It's the first time I've ever heard it. Last week in the locker room, a dude said that to me. He goes, I just walk right in. I don't stretch. And he literally used the rubber band example. I literally was like, this guy must follow Andres, because it was exactly what you said. And it was the first time I heard it, and it made sense to me.
Yeah.
Just like when you said it, I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, I want the rubber band tight. If I'm launching and doing a sprint, I want tension.
Yeah, that resistance a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, you're familiar with this, Ryan. You're more of an athlete than I am. So you've been sitting on that question since Clemson, huh?
Yes. Well, I don't like to stretch either. And I mean, part of it's like, I just want to get at it. But like, I think subconsciously kind of felt what Andres described, which is like that tension a little bit. Because when I've stretched, I almost feel like I've lost some energy or something.
Yeah, like you're too relaxed and you just want to go like sit down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I definitely feel like I'm stronger when I don't stretch.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I've benched before, where I've really stretched out like my chest before, and I'm like, okay, I feel loose, but I'm like, then I go to lift, I'm like, I don't feel as strong as I normally do.
Yep.
And now I'm connecting those dots.
Yeah, you don't want to like overstretch for sure before training at all. Even after training, you don't want to overstretch, because you want to gain the benefits of training through full range of motion. For example, you see a lot of people at the gym, they bench press halfway down, right? And this is why I love to use dumbbells for bench press specifically. I haven't used a barbell in years. And the reason is because you can get a massive stretch at the bottom, and you can just allow your elbows to drop as far as they possibly can. And when you do that, you overstretch the chest. Well, guess what? You've improved the mobility in your chest right now, and that's not going to be pulling on your shoulders and rounding your shoulders forward. If your chest is tight, then it's going to take away a lot of stress from your back as well. So for people who have tight upper backs, maybe your chest is tight on the front. So you need to actually work on your mobility through strength training, through full range of motion. And also you want to be doing things like before training, like swinging your arms around, dynamic movement. You want to be doing something that's going to invigorate the body, not make the body relax and loose.
Yeah, and definitely I agree with the dumbbells. I do that too. I mean, I do
same.
That's a much larger range of motion and being able to drop your elbows down, because that bar, you run out of with your chest as big as mine. I run out of room.
Yeah.
Joke, but you do have more motion with each arm.
Yes, exactly. You work on imbalance.
Feel it activating when you. Yes. Andres, you're so knowledgeable, but a lot of great tips here. Probably talk another hour, but the show must go on and the work must go on. Where can everyone keep up and learn more about what you're doing, how to work with you, etc.?
Okay, so you can find me on pretty much all channels. I'm on YouTube. It's called Movement Specialist Andreas. I'm on Instagram, Andreas_David_Christou. I'm also on Twitter, known as ATP Maxer. And where else am I? Nice. Yeah, I think that's most places. And then my website, of course, which is mobility-fitness.com. And that's where people can reach out to me if they want to connect with me and work with me one-on-one. I also have some ready-made plans as well, so which are not obviously personalized, but those are really going to be great for people. But if people want to get inspiration for a lot of the things that we talked about today, I offer a lot of free stuff on YouTube and also on my Instagram. I give a lot of free knowledge and information for people to apply straight away. So definitely check it out.
Wonderful. We'll have all of that in the show notes. We really appreciate your time. Any final thoughts here, Chris?
Appreciate you coming on, Andres. It was really informative. I'm stoked for our audience to listen.
Thank you so much, guys. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Hey, guys, you're to find us, vibescience.com. We'll have all of the highlight clips, the links to the full show, and links to all of Andre's stuff. Hey, we always say it. Vibe Science is about mind, body, energy. That's what this show's about.
The content discussed on this show is provided for reference and educational purposes. The content is not an attempt to practice medicine or provide specific medical advice. Always consult your personal physician for medical advice and proper diagnosis.
Thanks for listening. This is Vibe Science. To learn more or watch full episodes, visit vibesciencepodcast.com. Here's to discovering your highest vibe.